Greetings, Marv Gardens here reporting in for this Tuesday day. How is everybody doing? I think it's very fitting that today is about history. So, you probably got a little history to talk about since yesterday was Monday anyway. But we ain't talking about that right now. We're gonna talk about history that relates back to the day. I'm not about to feed, history class lessons, yada yada yada. So, history that has carried on into today is that of the feminist perspective. And what we're gonna be talking about today is the power of the female voice. Um, what we're gonna get into specifically is how was it changed, where is it going, how um how did it start, yada yada yada. So let's start with the easy stuff. It started because females wanted to get in. They basically said, they got tired of basically being a housewife, maid wife, you know. And they said, I want to play too. So they got in. They didn't really get in until recently, but for the most part, females have definitely been always that second voice in the room that's been like, hey, hey, hey. But you know, there were a lot of reasons for that, but I feel like mostly is because females just felt left out. It first started when females started wanting to be treated seriously. Like for the most part, like history has taught us that females have always been the children of society, even when they're not children anymore. And I feel like that's something that's definitely carried over. I mean, no disrespect to any female as being female, but you know, you will always be children in the eyes of society, so you just gotta deal with it. But nevertheless, it does mean it. Even though they're children, they do enjoy a lot of freedoms and stuff that they earn. For example, I don't see how you could use a gender as a reason to not pay a female the same as a male. But we're not gonna get into. We could talk about that later in the discussion about how finances has all definitely have definitely had an impact on the feminist voice and yada yada yada. But that was definitely one of the concerns because part of being a man in the house is being a man, bringing home the bacon. If you're baking about the same size as your wife baking, that can make a guy feel a certain type of way. Because now he feel powerless in the situation because, he can't be like, well, I work, apparently she worked just as hard as you. She, making about the same as you. But, the feminist perspective also turned into, as politics, and not talking about like suffrage and ability to vote, but more into we're still working our way into the female politician. There's Hillary Clinton, but it's like that's it. But I guess we UK got us beat on that one because the queens and yada yada. But in America, that's a hurdle that we're going to have to figure out because I feel like the whole black president thing made the office seem more like it's just an extension of political devices versus a seat of office. So we can't really expect to have a female president anytime soon because, as you know, if you ever looked at a chart of America's presidents, old man, old man, old man, old man, old man, old man, old man. All of these presidents is old man. So if there ever is a chance that there's going to be a female president, she gonna most definitely be. old woman. um, Another thing that is carried over from old women's basically the woman's voice in history is that of the I can do anything that you can do mentality. And I feel like, that's gonna always be up for debate because, women are always going to be looked at as the nice cop. And, that has its advantages, it has its disadvantages. So we can't really go into that. But, you know, women and cops, women and, firefighters, women in construction work, women in security, women in sports. Like these are all things that women have worked themselves into, but I feel like it's once you've made that accomplishment, there's no reason to try to prove a point anymore. And I feel like that's where a lot of women lose out. They get the accomplishment and then now they want fame for it, or yada yada yada. I'm like, just do what you need to do. And let's keep this thing trucking. But women's voice in terms of essentially society in general has definitely been increasingly influential. I feel like um women even individually make the difference because if a woman complains, somebody's gonna hear it immediately. Nobody dismisses the woman's claim anymore. In fact, women have shifted from progressive era tactics to essentially they looking like they on law system at this point. I can't lie. I can't lie, man. And that has its consequences as well as its own advantages. It does mean that women will always, from now on, be taken seriously. On the other hand, women are now contributing to attention in terms of males are definitely encouraged to stay on their toes in terms of how you interact with anyone, because it's not a matter of did you hurt her feelings. It's a matter of are you purposely antagonizing her. That's where the problem starts. And once it's established that you're purposely antagonizing a woman, it turns more into discrimination rather than is he really breaking a law or yada yada yada. And woman discrimination, I feel like is something that's always going to carry on, no matter what the century is, because, like I said, women have gotten the accomplishments, but the fame and I feel like when you try to speak open about this, like it's history, you open up some old band-aids and it's gonna always be like that, I feel, because women are always going to have to prove themselves at some point or another. Women are gonna always have to do risk assessment. Women are always going to have to like basically uh go beyond the 100%, because that's just the way it works. When women do what they need to do, they get what they want. And I feel like that's a mentality that works, because if you was born into an era where somebody told you literally were not born, like you literally were not built for this, like I would probably make you feel some type of way too. But you know that's just the fact of the matter. It's the unspoken side of society, and I feel like women will always be the unspoken side, like what you would call the the opposite side of the moon. And I say that because the woman's perspective will always be flawed in terms of when they deserve the accomplishment. Because a part of the problem with a woman's voice is that she feels like it was always about qualifications. It's not necessarily about qualifications. Um, you know, being qualified doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of whatever you're trying to do. Qualifications just gets the conversation started. There will always be extraneous, conditions that push women in or push women out, depending on the type of woman you are. And that just goes back to society. Like women's voice in society will always take a learning experience to fully understand. You will never wake up and say the woman is always right, because she's not. However, you can't just say she's not right because she's right, because she's not right. You have to say that she's not right and explain yourself in an unbiased way. And I feel like that's how women get bogged down, because it can be difficult at times to explain to a woman why she's not right without sounding prejudiced. Is in essentially. I would say the woman's voice in terms of being the guiding the what you would call the common sense or something like that. The voice of reason has definitely changed, because women will always tell you to play things safe. However, I feel like nowadays women are more encouraging for males to take the risk, because in this day and age, taking a risk can pay off. However, what women tell you to do that and what women don't tell you to do that will be so different. It's not even worth trying to generalize this. So I feel like the chances are, if you are with a woman and she's trying to tell you something, especially if it's career oriented, you should just basically say, like, if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And leave it at that, because women, I feel like their voice will always have that bias, and that being right is most important. And that can lead to a lot of contradictions, because it's not always about being right. And being right, it's not that being right is wrong, it's just that it's not everything. But moving on from trying sounding like I'm basically I don't know, arguing with women. The woman's voice has taken on a in terms of let's see. I say in terms of business, women's voice have definitely changed, because most people expect women to be the CEO or the CFO or some stupid important position, or something that's revolving around aesthetics. But in reality, women's advantage has been in customer service. A woman, it takes one pleasant woman to make even a small business feel professional. And I feel like that's women's contribution to business. Like, they make every business feel like it's Wall Street. And that's just going back to women's ability to be that welcoming person in the room. And I feel like that's just going back to old history, where that was their job. You come home from work, you want to come home to a warm room. You don't want to come home to a cold room. So once you take them out of the house and you put them into the business, it's the same feeling. And I feel like that is the critical point of women's contribution to business. But if you feel like you want to run your own business, then run your own business. If you feel like you want to be the top, then be the top. But I'm like, just make sure at the end of the day you understand that you're still a woman. I feel like that's how a lot of women lose that. That's their voice that they've lost back in modern day society. That women have essentially forgotten who they are in terms of just being a woman in general. Because going back to what a previous talked about, being a pillar of society can put you in a position to easily be a hypocrite and contradict. And this contradiction can make women often sound like they don't know what they're talking about. And I feel like this will always be apparent because this was the argument that they've been using since the beginning of women complaining that women don't know what they're talking about, but they do know what they're talking about. It's just that you get to a point where you get so involved in society that your societal appearance and then your personal appearance don't look the same. And once you get to that point, I can see how people can, specifically males, can lose faith in you because you basically look like you either faking or you living like you a spy or something. You basically look like a spy. And I say spy in the sense that your characters are not one and the same. In terms of the woman's voice, in terms of how they essentially contribute, I feel like they 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 will always be interpreted as nagging, right? And that's just gonna come with it. But I feel like women in any society are always going to be the idea guy. They are the idea guy in terms of society. And I say the idea guy because a woman's position is very not special. We're not going to go there. A woman's position in society is very um it's a specific role that most people don't want to fill because they're like, it's like running a company but not being the not having the perks of being a boss, but you still do all the work of the boss. And then you essentially take pay cuts and time cuts and yada yada yada. And that's how they turn into the idea guy, because it's like once you figured out that your role is to play the sub role, then that's how women adjust naturally. They push others to do stuff. And I feel like that stretches no matter who you are, no matter what your culture is, what country you from, what part of the world you from. Women will always be the driving force of the society in terms of how they impact people, which is basically males. um, in terms of women's voice on each other, I feel like women have already accomplished which what I would call world peace. um, and I don't know how long they've done this for, but I feel like that's probably one of the first that's an impression that I have gotten, that women have accomplished world peace because they have this um unanimous voice or unanimous atmosphere that makes me feel like all women already know each other. But that's neither here nor there. Um Woman's voice in history has spurred things. Specifically talks of abortion, talks of oh yeah, can we legitimize the what you would call the lesbian relationship? Can you legitimize women, this women who choose to be alone? Can you legitimize you know, women who feel like, women this is a new, this is like the other stuff I talked about you probably heard of, but I'm gonna talk about something you probably never heard of. There are women who are coming up today who have decided to essentially adopt a more male role. And I say a male role because they are basically impressioning the docile male. And I say docile in the sense that there are women growing in number who are essentially basically saying either it's my way or the highway. And what this is manifesting into is the idea of the celibate relationship. And what that means is that there are women who are so committed to being committed that, you know, that's it. If you're not committed, then there's nothing you can get from them. And I feel like that may sound like I just basically told you something you already know, but you know, I feel like most people haven't met that woman because if you meet the right woman, then you should be able to have some sway with her naturally. But I feel like there are women who choose to discard that sway that males have with them in favor of a uh what you call a no strings attached, straight to the point, basically marriage. um and I feel like that's just a beginning of the new era because you know I feel like celibacy has always been a concept of society, but it's nothing that's been rigidly enforced individually by females. I feel like females will always have that what you call it, that discrepancy with whoever they feel like they want to have a discrepancy with. But to I feel like the reason why I even brought this up is because if you're already in a relationship, you don't know what I'm talking about. If you've already committed, you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, whatever to you right now. And that's just a consequence of a different path, but we're not going into that. What I'm going to go into is that I find the female voice becoming more like the male voice, and that's just my interpretation of it. And what that means is that the I've also talked about Business America. Women are essentially becoming businesses, and to characterize the situation that I'm talking about, they are going from contract to merger. And what that means is that instead of saying it we you can parlay, you can negotiate. They're going straight to either all or nothing. And given the fact that I've already highlighted that females prefer the safe route, you can't blame them. And what that means for males, because I don't know how that works for a lesbian relationship. However, for males, what that means is that the female voice has definitely spoken, and they basically said that your role, it will never be a fluid one anymore. And by fluid, you always gonna have those relationships where people be like, "Come on, you're together." No, no, it's gonna always be a definite status. There will never. It's not that what they use? Oh, was it MySpace or was that Facebook? One of probably MySpace when they be like it's complicated. But I feel like that's always been in place, but now the numbers of those type of women is growing. Because when it first happened to me, when I first started experiencing it, I was like, what the hell? But I'm like, I didn't expect it to keep occurring. That's why I never noticed it. But now that I noticed that it's occurring, rather rapidly, I'm like, oh man. There's your answer. If you ever wanted to ask yourself, who's the man in the relationship, there you go. But even going into that, that's I feel like once females have fully integrated this, it's probably already done. But once females have fully integrated this system, and the idea of the philandering female will become more of a myth, then there will know that you can't even joke anymore saying who wears the pants in relationship. It's more of a it will become more of a fact of life instead of something that you watch on TV and be like ha 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 ha. But what that does mean though is that women are becoming more engrossed in the aggressiveness of society. And most people associate aggressiveness with violence. It's not necessarily about being violent, it's about playing hardball. Females are finally catching on that to CC you gotta play hardball, and if they don't wanna play hardball, they ain't come to play. But dang. As a male, like to even have myself saying this, like I can't. I just feel no, I can't tell you what I feel. From a knowledge perspective, This is just basically, I feel like this is to help encourage the what you call it of the female president. This can only help the accomplishment of female presidents because I can only imagine what needed to happen in the UK for the first female monarch. So, I feel like this is gonna happen over here. Whatever happened in the UK is gonna happen over here. And how it's gonna happen or when it's gonna happen is probably gonna be soon. Probably before the end of the century, probably even before 2050, probably even before 2040 or 30, to be honest with you. But, you know, I feel like that's just a fact of life that females' voice is and went from growing to land grabbing now. Like not land grabbing, but you get my idea. Females are no longer going are no longer turning into a majority. They are making moves as a majority now, and I feel like that's a definite change from old history, where females will look more as a kind of like basically what the group on homosexuality was. Back in the day, it was all about gay rights and yada yada yada. Now it's looking more like a fact of life. Now it's not a, and I feel like what got that point across was there was this show called Chosen, and it was essentially about a homosexual man, whatever his origins were. Um, that was irregardless, and it got canceled. And that just goes to show that that's what happens when a group is a majority versus a growing majority. And you know that's it's a fact of life. It's not something that you don't have to think or feel anything about it. It's just this is what happens when people make moves. And what that means is that females are in a position where they can make moves, and you can see this in more than one way. I feel like even now with the supervisors in any business, any type of leadership role, females are they're the first to step up because they already know it's you have to get the accomplishment. It's not about you know I deserve this. You get the accomplishment, and then nobody can argue with you. And females are what I feel like in the future, in the very near future, females are going to have this so locked down that high school is going to turn into terror camp. um, and why I call it terror camp is because basically you gonna have the geekiest looking females telling the coolest guys what to do. And the reason is because male devices which have been keeping females in check are no longer going to be feasible. Once you have females basically telling males what to do, they ain't gonna have no choice but to agree because it's like if your choices are to have something or nothing, what are you gonna do about it? So, I feel like if people are concerned about female youth, or if there was ever discussions about the youth just acting out or whatever the news tries to portray nowadays, then that's a joke, because females will always be the center of the debate. They will always be the maker and breaker of any basically whatever society is trying to perpetuate at the time. And you know that may take all of the action out of things, and I say action in the sense that you probably pretty soon, it's looking like that now already, to be honest with you. Like the these occasions where somebody hits the news because a female was taken advantage of and yada yada yada. Something like that already happened, and as you can see, females already got it on lock. We're not. There's no more 2020 CNN. None of that stuff talking about females being victimized and somebody getting away. Nowadays, females. Every time you hear an occasion of a female in some nonsense, it's looking more like a setup. And I'm not saying that she's being what you would call malicious or deceitful. None of that stuff. Basically, it's stupid. It's like it's like a bear walking into a bear trap. Like a tiger walking into a pitfall. Like just stupid stuff. Like it's looking more like, like what's wrong with you, dog? Like you couldn't see this from a mile away. Like what's your problem? And I feel like that's gonna be the male. Like first it was about the female struggle, and now the females are turning this into a male struggle, which is funny enough, ironic enough, really. And I feel like that's another important footnote in our history, that females are not victims anymore. It's looking more like females are the what you would call movers and shakers of the gossip, basically. Meaning, if you do hear stuff about females, it's not a matter of what happened to her. It's about what's gonna happen. Not to her, but to whoever, basically fell into that trap. And this is not supposed to be taken as a negative connotation. I'm not saying that females are moving towards being problems. Not at all. It just means that females are taking their leverage more seriously. And I call it leverage because the idea is that you're not being tricked. You're not being fooled. None of this stuff is imaginary. It's not like, gee, Bob, I didn't see this one coming. These are all things that are very visible, very apparent, very real. And it's not the source of it. It's not like females decided, well, let's just all be jerks. It's what you would call incorporation of male aggression. And it could be contradictory to call being being a cause of an effect aggression, but you gotta look at it. She allowed you to ruin yourself. It's like letting somebody punch you in the face just so you could watch them get in trouble. Now, that may sound like I'm talking about a religious hint. It's not a religious hint. This is male tactics adapted in a form that males are going to have to get used to. The female voice has gotten so loud now that it is now decibel for decibel with male voice. And what that means is that females are making male moves. Females are doing male things. Females are, I feel like, shedding that label that Disney, that Disney fairy tale, Cinderella, Snow White, Pocahontas, imagery that we've been feeding ourselves for however long. And what's coming out of that is you would call it a tomboy. It's not really a tomboy. Females are looking more like a Mulan, basically. Looking more like a yeah, I haven't been keeping up with my Disney movies lately, so you don't have to forgive me on that one. Looking more like a Ren. If you've seen the new Star Wars movie, or a Admiral Padme, something like that. And what that means is that society is soon to move into another progressive era as well, in terms of how it adapts to this. Because when a system becomes more rigid, at one point you have to throw a little flexibility at another point, or it's gonna cause tension. That's what I'm talking about, tension. But I feel like, for the most part, it's not gonna be a problem. Like, I feel like it's already understood that females can get serious about stuff. Now, what that does entail is, what are they serious about? And back in the day, it took a lot for females to get serious about something. Nowadays, females get serious about stuff, and that's it. It's done. So, going back to the female president thing, I feel like that's why I said, like, I'm not even worried about a female running for office. Hillary Clinton is just the example of a female running for office. But when a female want the office, I feel like a female gonna get the office. But moving on to a positive note. Females' voices have definitely allowed for basically now they look more like a race versus a gender. And how I explain that is that they are finding themselves basically, branching out into everything. At first, they were just like doing the weird stuff, like, they were activists, or they were like journalists, or they were like teachers, like, female stuff that you would expect females to do. But now they looking more like they want in on everything now. That's what I'm saying. They looking more like a race, because you would never think of a female as being the center of a male group, of a male dominant group, or the female being a leader of a band, or which is two different things, by the way, or a female being a what you would call a Michelle Obama or something like that. Which, that's how Hillary started. But as you know, Hillary got her own battles to face. She I feel like she succumbed to the male pressure of being the only female in the room. But that's another story for another day. Um, Females are definitely taking on unexpected roles. Like, I feel like on a normal social level with no fancy talk thrown into it, females are turning more into assets than friends. Females are turning more into uh not role models, because I'm not trying to follow a female. That's like trying to be a son or something. Um Females are turning more into that role, in that support member that they've always been characterized as, but they've never had the what you would call the merit for it. Meaning, nowadays you could say that females are in big or important places. Back in the day, they were just in places. um, and to avoid sounding like I'm gushing over females, a more negative note is that females will find themselves basically, well, eventually challenging masculinity. And the reason why I feel like they will find themselves challenging masculinity, because they will get more and more demanding. And I feel like that was the downfall of women accomplishment, that it just became more of a motivation for females to get their way if they want their way. And I feel like this will come up eventually, because not for the president thing, because I feel like a woman that wants the office of president is going to do what she needs to do to be qualified. I feel like on a domestic level, demanding females will contribute to either strained marriages, they will contribute to divorce rate, they will contribute to adultery, they will contribute to homosexuality. Believe it or not, it sounds like I know it sounds crazy, but females will eventually become overbearing for some. Not everybody, not most people, but for some. And that's just a fact of life as well. You can't always have pluses without cons, pros without cons. And what this means for females is that in your journey for equivalency with male dominance, having your own form of dominance, you need to maintain your feminine perspective and your feminine view. Never become the monster you wish to defeat, because that's going to always be the tragic flaw of males. That we will always be the bad guy, because we have to be the bad guy. There can never be you're not truly male if you can't contradict with females. And that's just the truth of the fact of the matter. It's not a critique or a statement, it's the truth. Females making their voice heard is one thing, but females trying to dictate martial law is another. Pay attention to the country. You are going to be the reason this country is relaxed, or you can be the reason why this country is more of a I don't want to say concentration camp because that brings back bad memories. You will be the reason why this country is a boot camp per se. And what that means is that you must be I'm going to use this. This is not my words, but this was used before. You need to be a benevolent dictator. And what that means is that you should always have what you would call relaxation periods. And what this means for you is going to be different. No female is going to have the same, off days or off, basically, soft points for every female. But I feel like that's going to be crucial to your ability to cohabitate with the male race. I feel like females will never let themselves conflict with the opposite gender because you have to go to work with the opposite gender. You have to interact with the opposite gender every day. Females will find themselves essentially very lonely if you don't figure out how to be the man without running the man out the house. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Shout out to my supporters. I love you guys. All of you guys. Which probably sounds weird, but I already said it so. But shout out to Juanita Hooper, Shamia Skinner, Chris Vasquez, and my mans from the mall. I'm gonna keep saying I'm gonna keep shouting you out like this until I find you again, and I get your name again. I didn't even really look at your name, so I can't even halfway guess it. But yeah, man, I still got you on mine. Shout out to my anonymous patrons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Supporters, I'm working on something big. Nah, it's not big. I'm working on something. I'm trying to figure out how to appeal to you outside of the work ethic. More of a what you would call an incentive. I'm trying to bait you guys, to be honest with you. And why I want to bait you guys is because I want to push you guys to push me to push harder. And the reason why I want to do this is because if you see me pushing harder, pushing more content, pushing more topics, pushing basically more workout, you're going to understand why I do what I do. And I feel like if I can get you to understand why I do what I do, then my mission is complete. The product is complete. Still working on the hour sheet. I gotta. I'm basically. It's like hit or miss right now. I know it may sound weird, but I'm struggling. Not struggling. I'm waiting to not wait, if that makes any sense. So what that means is when I really start getting busy, because I'm not even busy yet. I'm just starting to get busy. When I get busy, I'll let you know. You'll see the work. But yeah, thank you. That shit.